development actually. And it's right in the middle of the country, right in the middle, not accessible by road. So before going ahead, I would say that I was living in one such place, and that was a tribal girls' hostel, girl child hostel over there. And they didn't have any hotels or anywhere I could stay. So I was staying in a small room with a battery operated torch. There was no light, and I reached there on half on foot, half on a car, and rest of the time in a train. And I reached there during midnight, and they actually got me to settle down in a room. And then I woke up in the morning at about 7 a.m. and that's by the way late in India, so it's late in the village. In villages, people wake up very early, almost 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, because that's when they actually make happen. So I woke up and I saw this out of my window. So I'm taking you through a photographic journey, because that's one of my interests as well, take pictures. So I saw this happening right outside my window. A girl in a school uniform fetching water from the well. And she was not fetching water for herself, she was fetching water for her colleagues, her classmates. And this was going on. And then I went through the complete, it was a school as I said, and I went through the whole routine of the school. And the children would line up over here, get their shoes off. They were not allowed to take the shoes inside because it was a prayer room. And this means bhojanalaya, which means the kitchen, right? And the kids are having food, right? So this was a complete routine. It was a residential school. And these kids were basically kept in the school for food, for better living conditions, because their parents could not afford them. Their parents are primarily tribal people, and they could not even afford kerosene to light up their homes in the evening. So then I went through the school, saw kids so dedicated towards whatever they were doing, and yes, they were really warm in welcoming me. They talked to me. I talked to each one of them, and take some portraits as well. So they're beautiful. They're beautiful as well. I never saw such beautiful pictures of people from tribal areas. Most of the time you see pictures from tribal areas is sometimes gloomy, some raising funds for those things. So I captured the different side of it. And they were very organizing in themselves. So I actually discovered their organization capabilities over there, working with them and trying to understand what they are going through. That was just an observation, right? And then I found the source of energy. This person who came from Calcutta, which is a metropolitan in India and the eastern part of the country, and he's a doctor, medical doctor, and he came over here and started this school in the name of his own teacher, guru. And but there were obstacles. So obstacles was funding. There was no funding available. So they had buildings, they had uniforms, but they didn't have food. Any of you can come up with a reason why they didn't have food? They didn't have funding for food? Any reasons for that? Okay, I won't put any spot on it. So basically, they were corporations who were ready to support buildings, ready to construct buildings for them, because they could put a banner outside the building saying that this was sponsored by this company, right? They could put a logo of their company on the uniform saying that this was supported by us, and they could get benefit in sustainable reporting. But they could not put such thing on food, right? 300 students, 300 kids, talented kids, capable of all the development, but they were denied access to food. This guy was taking loans from the village vendors to actually feed those kids. So I decided, I just reflected upon, and my project with solar lighting was not going to help them, right? So if I provide them light, they already had battery-powered things, and it was not very beneficial for them. So I thought I would not impose it on them. So I retreated back. I did not, I could do whatever I could by giving some petty donation. But apart from that, I thought I could not do much. So then I went into a kind of a retrospection, wherein I thought that I have a degree in environmental studies. I have studied the scientific sections of environmental studies, the policies section of environmental studies. But what I'm missing completely is the human dimension, right? So the human dimension in the environmental sector was missing, and humans always complement their environment, and environment does not exist. Humans do not exist without the environment. So the decision to retire into an academic power nap. I'm sleeping right now. So I'm in the academic power nap right now, and yeah, this is the doer part of mine. Although you said that academic is not part of the doer thing, but that's fine. So I'm in the academic power nap right now. So when you have a nap, you have a dream, right? And the dream for me now is to go back. And the Heller School provides me with an opportunity to go back to do a practicum. That's the best part of, I would say, Brandeis in general, where you have options to test the theories, test the hypotheses that you developed through studying to actual practice. So the dream basically is to go back to India, to work with the same organization, and work to improve the human dimension, the humanization of the organization in general. So there's a lot of dehumanization that we do not interact with each other as humans, right? We interact with each other based on the virtues that we have, based on the connections that we have, based on the resources that we have. We do not understand each other at the soul level. We do not connect with each other at the soul level. So that humanization factor was at the core. And what I understood after getting concepts from Heller School was that our focus was mostly based on needs. What we understand that people need, right? What we understand that people would value. What we understand that people would pay for. But that was not the case. And because of that, most of the projects, the solar energy projects that we actually set up in rural India were not very sustainable. They were not going beyond 1 year, 1.5 years, at maximum 3 years so far. So now the dream is basically to change. And the human development through an environmental conservation perspective. And that's the goal. That's the one single purpose that I'm talking about. So what was missing was the human part of it and the conservation part of it. So human development through environmental conservation basically conserves the human nature of development and the humanization part. So with that single purpose in mind, I intend to do this. Right space approach. From a need space, what we understand as needs, to the right space approach. So now if I go back to that slide, this person was trying to get funding for food from people, from benevolent donors, getting his hand out and asking for money. That's not people are going to give money. You have that right to food. You have those rights, you have those entitlements, and you have to exercise those rights, and you have to have property rights as well when you go into that. So coming to that, rights-based approach is going to be the future of development in my project in the coming years. So this picture is quite ironical. You know, I intend to describe the pictures as well. So these three ladies whom you see, they were the benevolent funders in one of the projects that we established. And these three women were the receivers, were at the receiving end. So this was unintentional though, this picture I captured by chance. But it came out that they were not concerned about them once they got the visibility. So once the visibility is done, once you get the credit for it, you get satiated inside, you leave. You leave them on their own. And you never consider about what is their need. What do they need? What choices do they have? So that's where rights-based approach comes into picture, wherein you give them rights to exercise their capabilities, because all human beings are born with equal infinite capacity, right? Everything. So in that, we go with the rights-based approach and improve the development. That's again an ironical Indian government says that we need to mainstream gender in whatever we do, right? And all my pictures in the earlier slide you saw, except the school, they were mostly men involved in the project. And this was a village meeting that we did, and the village leader was supposedly a woman, because it was in the constitution. It was made to be like that. It was a law that the female member has to be the leader of the village. So she was just on papers, and she was called, and she was just sitting in the middle and not participating in it. So this has to change, right? So this has to change. There has to be decision-making capacity at this level as well. So both the genders should have equal access. So that's where the Heller education comes into picture. And that's what I'm going to do. Yes, please.
I have a question. So,
yeah.
What would we say would the percentage of such gender bias happening in India right now?
What do you mean by?
As you said that a puppet leader probably. What you see, a gender puppet leader is what you're looking at, propagating right now. What percentage would you say would such a figure be in India right now?
See, there have been no studies done on the qualitative aspects of gender bias. In terms of numbers, you can get the figure that how many women leaders are there. Let's say 25% is the ballpark figure that we say for women sarpanch in the villages of India, that's a village leader. But this is the quantitative part. This picture shows the quantitative part, but it doesn't show the qualitative aspect, which is visible, right? So, then deliberative democracy. India is the largest democracy in the world, right? We really boast of it. But actually, is it a democracy or is it just in theory? Is it just limited to voting? Or people actually deliberate on things together and then make a decision? So that has to come from the rural level. So as I said earlier, that I am very attached to the grassroots, and things have to change from grassroots at the same time. If there's political representation from grassroots at the top, then it will be a screw action and people will work together. So at the end, it's civic engagement and deliberative democracy that I want to emphasize. And yeah, the lab continues. I mean, I have a team at Heller School which is working on these aspects, and one of the members is here, Siti. And she's from Indonesia. She's really interested in the project, and we worked on different projects radically so far. And we're definitely going to make it a success. And I welcome you in being a part of the project. And